Bob Dennett, I want to begin with you. This government very committed to wind energy, which all sounds very noble, other, of course, than the huge amount of taxpayer subsidy that goes into it. But when the wind doesn't blow, we need gas. And we are importing more and more gas from overseas. In fact, by 2040, it'll be 80% of the gas used in this country is being imported. So it's being produced. The carbon emissions are happening anyway. Doesn't it make more sense to produce our own gas rather than importing it from Qatar, Norway and Russia?
Well, first and foremost, I'll say that we import less than 1% of gas from Russia, and that comes in as a LNG. So it's not coming into the grid.
Well, Norway is what Lord Goldsmith mentioned, but wherever it comes from, the fact is we are importing an increasing amount of gas. It's damaging our balance of payments, especially with prices rising. There are worries about security. Wouldn't it make more sense to do it here?
But we are also exporting more and more gas. An article in the Daily Mail dated the 29th of January said that we doubled our exports in the last few months. So if it comes down to a question of whether we're importing or exporting gas, perhaps we should stop exporting and use the gas that was being produced from the North Sea.
Bob Dennett, we are net large importers of gas. The volume of gas net we import is going up every year. As we continue to attempt to become the Saudi Arabia of wind, which I think is a very mistaken policy, we're going to need to import more and more gas. So the point is, this stuff is being produced. We are consuming it. Doesn't it make more sense? And wouldn't it be actually environmentally more friendly to do it here?
Well, certainly not environmentally more friendly doing it by the process of fracking. Peter and I have discussed this before. Fracking is a dirty and dangerous business. And around about 6% of the wells fail upon installation, and they all fail during their lifetime. That enables leakage of chemicals, methane, and other obnoxious substances into the atmosphere and into the local land. Fracking causes earthquakes. The industry tell us that the fracking does not cause earthquakes, that they're too minor. Well, the last earthquake we had here was a 2.9.
Yeah.
It caused 197 properties to be damaged.
Yeah, well, so Bob, the argument is
earthquakes.
So the argument is gas extraction's a nasty business. Let's let other countries do it. I'm going to bring in Peter Styles. Peter, there's been Bob Dennett and others like him speak with huge passion on this subject, and they've had considerable sway over the course of the last few years. Are there other methods of gas extraction than fracking that could be practical and could work?
Hello, Nigel. Hello, Bob.
Good evening.
We're old friends. I talk about this a lot. In fact, I've been talking about it for many decades. You can kind of sum it up with 3 S's where the government has actually done this badly. The first of all is storage. Right, we closed the Rough Field off Yorkshire, so we have virtually no storage. We have some in Cheshire. I live in Cheshire, in Salt. The second is the spot market, and that now we have to buy it at whatever price is is current, and that can be very high. And the third is shale. Now, for various reasons, I had conversations with Quadrilla before they even started fracking. Because for 40 years, I've been monitoring induced seismicity. That's small earthquakes caused by things like coal mining, caused by landslides. And I told them before they started that what they needed to do was to install seismic monitoring, because we could have actually monitored the process. My introduction to this was monitoring emissions of gas which were catastrophic in coal mines. People died, people were suffocated, there were actually explosions. I devised systems of microseismics which allowed us to actually control that process by looking at the seismicity as it happened. Now, Quadrilla, I guess they thought, what does this British guy know about anything to do with this? And so they actually didn't take my advice. We then had fracking and we had earthquakes. The day after the first earthquake, my research group installed a seismic monitoring network and then monitored the rest of the processes. We could have done that beforehand, but we didn't. So from that point of view, it was never done correctly.
Okay, so mistakes were made. I certainly haven't heard in America, where they're extracting shale gas in huge quantities. I certainly haven't heard from there about large protest groups or anything of the kind. But it's this word fracking, isn't it? This is the word that has got into the mind of many of the British public. Is there another method that can be used?
Well, right. In this process, you actually have to generate small fractures within the rock because that's how the gas escapes and is captured. It used to be called hydraulic stimulation. Fracking is, if you like, the word which has become current. But what we are doing is we're using high pressure water to produce small fractures through which gas can actually be produced. 10 years ago, I met with Claire Perry, who was the energy minister at the time, and I explained to her that it would have been possible to carry this out beneath the Irish Sea, not beneath Preston New Road. And you could have drilled at the coast, you could have drilled out into the Irish Sea and carry out the first fracking under the Irish Sea. And she was interested. She asked her civil servants to look at it. While I was there, I heard nothing more about it. So this was not necessarily a process which needed to be carried out in this place at this time and in this way.
Okay, Peter Styles, I tell you what, this debate really is going to become a big political issue over the course of the next few months. I'm sure it is. I'm certain of that. And finally, Bob Dennett, are you in favour of nuclear?
No.
I see. So you're not in favour of of gas. You're not. What are we going to do? To sort of live on candles for the rest of our lives?
Unless they can find a safer way of doing the nuclear, which they are working on. They're working on it and they're making progress with it. They need to make more progress before nuclear itself will become safe. And
well, I have to say, Bob,
since you mentioned nuclear, part of the purpose of fracking is that it will produce hundreds and hundreds of boreholes, which will ultimately become the storage place for the 17 million tons of nuclear waste we've got stored in the UK.
I don't think so for one moment. It would all depend on geology, but I tell you what, it'd be a cold old world, wouldn't it, Bob, if you had your way? Gentlemen, we will return to this debate. I know we will. It's becoming a bigger and bigger issue.